Hello, ladies and gentlemen, hobbits, elves, and dwarves, and etc., and proud foot, proud feet, whatever. Um, we are gathered here today to go over a few more troubleshooting tips for getting LotRO, and I'm going back to just saying LotRO. People have given me a permission structure to say LotRO. I'm going to grasp it with both hands. LotRO it is. Um, Not instead of LotRO, in case anybody's wondering what the heck I'm talking about. Okay, sorry, I'm going to try not to get too distracted. This is, I don't want to say advanced troubleshooting because there's not going to be anything necessarily advanced about this, but beyond the topics of my prior videos, which is basically just getting the game installed and running. If you've done those, and let's go over that just ever so briefly, on the forums, you can go forums.lotro.com. Scroll down to tech support, and I've finally made it. I've finally arrived. They have stickied my threads. So here's the install new LotRO. Man, I almost corrected it now, and now I can't go back to the way I was. New LotRO installs, one guide to rule them all. There's a written guide. There's also this video I made less than a year ago, I guess. I'll also link that in the description. But it's a guide for essentially just getting the prerequisites you need to get LotRO working correctly. On a computer that is not gummed up and doesn't have any other issues, really all you should need is the DirectX runtimes and the Visual C++ runtimes. That gives LotRO what it needs to talk to, and then that talks to your computer hardware, and then Windows shows you your game and everything's happy, right? So anyways, I mean that's really the way to think about these things. Here's basically your list of all the redistributables you need. And just very quickly, I want to note that I'm recommending this particular June 2010 redistributable because I explained it here, but it's a dumb installer. It doesn't try to judge what you have installed and then tells you I can't install because you already have it. It will just install. So this is what you want to do to get the game running right or correctly the first time. It links here to if you are using DirectX 9, there's an issue here that it links to, which is this one, and there's a workaround. And finally, if for some reason you don't have DirectX 10 or 11 options, but just DirectX 9, then there's your solution, which shouldn't happen if you do this setup routine. Now, everyone has varying degrees of computer comfort with computers, savviness with computers. If these steps don't work for you the first time, try them again. Who knows? You might have skipped one. You might have missed one. It can't hurt to try it again. You do no harm reinstalling these things over each other. There was one other point I want to go over. Oh, if you have purchased a new computer, built a new computer, or even just reinstalled Windows, one thing you might run into is that your Lord of the Rings Online folder in your documents, it's going to have a UserPreferences.ini that is possibly referring to a GPU that's no longer there, things like that. So you basically want to go into the Lord of the Rings Online folder and delete your UserPreferences.ini. That's your first step to troubleshooting. I can't show you that right now because we haven't yet run LotRO for the first time. So let's go ahead and do that, because the first thing I want to show you is an issue where essentially what's happening is it can't find your proper video adapter. What I mean by that is, and this is going to be unfortunate, but I'm going to show you my display adapters, and then I'm going to have the shame of somebody who spent his kids' college funds on video cards I should not be buying. And then I don't even want to talk about the water cooling that I put on this video card. So anyways, normally this is not showing up, but I enabled it in the BIOS so that it would, so that I can kind of mimic what a laptop is doing. A lot of laptops, they have an integrated graphics, meaning it's built into the CPU. So like this Intel 13700, not a 13900. I didn't go that crazy. It actually has a GPU built into it, and then on desktops, the motherboard itself will have a display port or an HDMI port where you can plug in a monitor. That's wired, so to speak, to the CPU's GPU. Then you have if you want to game on it, you really should have a discrete or separate GPU, either by AMD or NVIDIA, or now Intel does have some, but I wouldn't recommend them. I'm generally an NVIDIA guy, so you'll have a separate card with its own DisplayPort out and HDMI out connections for your monitor. Laptops, through some kind of magic, dark magic, or sorcery, new devilry, I don't know. Somehow laptops, one monitor, but it switches between which GPU is outputting to that monitor. And it seems to be more and more the case that people are, LotRO is having trouble determining which graphics adapter it should be using. So let's just look at that real quick here. Let's launch the launcher. Launch the launcher. Here we're being asked if we want this is actually a vestigial question. It no longer has any effect. You always have this 6 gigabytes of better textures, and you select whether to use them or not when you choose, like, I believe, high quality or ultra quality or whatever. But anyways, I always say yes. So we're in the launcher. We click the downward pointing triangle. We go to options, and you can see here it says select display adapter. And I leave it at automatic. Excuse me, I need to take a sip of something here. One sec. Sorry about that. So I usually leave this at automatic. Doesn't cause any. I've never had any issues, but I've kind of artificially created some issues. So if we leave this at automatic, well, let's leave it at automatic, and I'll show you what happens. Here we are at the login. Now we should have a Lord of the Rings Online folder under Documents, right? The Lord of the Rings Online. And we now have a probably very basic UserPreferences.ini. So let's go in there. Whoops. Popped up on the wrong monitor. So here we go. Notice it's saying display adapter 0. All right. So what's going to happen? Oh, that's my those are my notes. So I don't need those anymore. I would hope not, since I only got 2 points into them. Okay, so let's see here. Let's launch it again and change the graphics adapter. I don't remember this option being here. We used to have to, long ago, it's been here a while now, but I'm pretty sure we used to have to just guess and set that by hand in the user preferences. Could be wrong though. So if we change this from automatic to explicitly say, let's use my 4090, and I'll bring it back over. Boop. Now it's saying display adapter 1, and you guessed it. If we say Intel UHD, it's interesting to me that it's writing it immediately. Didn't used to do that. Now we're at display adapter 2. So you could see how you could change this yourself by changing that. But now that we have the GUI way of doing it, let's not do that. So let's see here. All right, and finally, let's change this to the Microsoft Basic Render driver, which I tried to launch the game with this set, and it would not work. But just for fun, let's should be 3, right? Yep, display adapter 3. So I'm going to set this back to automatic. That's what I have good luck with. But if you're having any trouble, like in my case, I would probably choose this if I'd ever had any trouble when it's set to automatic. So automatic may be just leaving it up to Windows. So let's talk about how Windows makes this decision if it's left up to Windows. Um, a lot of people used to say go into your AMD or NVIDIA control panel and select your preferred GPU there. That doesn't seem to be possible anymore, at least not in my case. And then according to a document I found, I think I know why. Could be wrong. So if we go to Manage 3D Settings in the NVIDIA control panel, it used to be that you would select a game, like let's select Sid Meier's Civilization, and you would have preferred GPU here. But there's nothing like that here. Now, while we're here, let's go ahead and set LotRO up. I don't have it as something I can just grab. As you can see, it doesn't appear here anywhere. So you just say add and hope that it shows up here. There it is. You can hover and it's going to say, I'm pointing to my screen. You can't see that. It's going to point to the x64 folder and LotRO client 64.exe. So that's good. We could also browse for it if we couldn't find it, and we would just go to that path, C drive, program files, x86. I'm going to point out briefly, program files without x86 is for 64-bit programs. Even though this is now a 64-bit client, it's still under the x86 folder. You can ignore that in case that was not at all interesting or useful to you. Anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and add the selected program. There's all sorts of stuff here you can do to override the types of anti-aliasing, things like that used in LotRO to make it look prettier, but I find it looks pretty darn good with just setting it in-game. Like I might set G-Sync up to enable it just for LotRO here later. But as you can see, I don't see any ability to select the GPU you would want. This is the closest thing. It's CUDA GPUs for like, you know, processing, but not gaming. That's a whole other thing. And as you can see, I don't have any choices other than this. So anyways, so my point is it's really not in the NVIDIA control panel as far as I can see anymore. Instead, and let's find that document. Oh, I didn't want to cancel that. Oh well, it's gone. I'll have to re-add it. Here, bear with me. Take 1 second. LotRO, add selected, apply. Okay, pardon me. All right, let's close that. This is an article over at NVIDIA, and it says beginning with Windows 10 20. That's 2020 first half build of Windows 10. The OS assigns the graphics processor and overrides any setting in the NVIDIA control panel. So even if we could set it there, it would be overridden by Windows. So where do we set it in Windows? We go to graphics settings. So you could click start and go to graphics. Just type graphics settings. We're on Windows 11 right now. If things look a little different for you, maybe you're on Windows 10. So I could just click that, but I kind of like to get to, or at least show how to get it by just navigating to it. So we're in here. We went to the gear. Now we're going to go to display, and we're going to scroll all the way down to graphics. And here we have a list of games. So for example, BattleTech. Let Windows decide high performance. So we're going to let Windows decide, and it's going to say high performance. The high performance choice is my NVIDIA video card. My power saving choice is my Intel GPU. We might want to touch on power settings actually now that brings that up. But now that raises the question. It does not beg the question. People who say use those interchangeably are begging the question wrong, but that's okay. It's now the colloquial use. Sorry. I don't want to say I digress because then I sound like a certain YouTuber. Okay, cancel that. Let's add desktop app here. Add a desktop app, browse, and it's already here. But let's navigate to it just for fun. C, program files, x86. Standing Stone Games, The Lord of the Rings Online, the x64. Now, if you don't run the x64, client, the 64-bit client, you'll want to use just the plain LotRO client.exe there. But 99% of you should use the 64-bit. So go into the x64 folder, select the LotRO client 64, and add it. And here it is now. And we can now say always use high performance. Don't let Windows decide. I'm wondering if you leave it at let Windows decide and then you change your power plan on Windows to be more power conscious, if it would start using this, because that tends to indicate what power saving you would use. I don't know, but if you set it explicitly, you shouldn't have any more problems. I'm going to put it back the way it was because I don't tend to have any problems with that. But so that's where you should be setting it. I think set it there. Leave the LotRO launcher at auto, and hopefully you'll have no issues. If you continue to have issues, I would go to the LotRO launcher and set it there as well. If you continue to have issues, then I would delete again my UserPreferences.ini and start it over. I have had to do that in cases. You don't lose your key mappings. That's set in a different file. You don't lose it. All you lose really are your display settings and your audio settings, which takes only a few seconds to set up. As a matter of fact, I'll show you how quickly you can set it up. So delete it. LotRO shortcuts. Come on. Whew, terrible double clicking today. So this is going to launch, and it's going to ask us the same questions again. Yes. Hold on, my dog wants in. 1 second. Okay, my dog is happy now. And we're going to choose my server. We're going to scroll all the way down and agree after reading all of this in its entirety. That's always a good sign when you get asked if you would like to use DirectX 11. We're going to say yes. Into the game we go. And I need to turn my volume down so that you guys can still hear me. Oh, hit escape. And I mean, I always just fly through this and say, okay, that's fine. DirectX 11, let's go Ultra. I mean, I would think most modern computers should be able to do Ultra, but I guess I've exposed myself as a bit of a snob about computer hardware, so bear with me. Again, snobby. I'm doing just 1920 by 1080 here. Normally I'd be at 4K. Sorry. But so that's really it. And then I just set anti-aliasing to 8 times. 8x, and that looks pretty good. That's really all you need to set. Everything else to defaults. I don't tend to mess with, under advanced, I don't tend to mess with the refresh rate or syncing or triple buffering, because with G-Sync and things like that, I just set in the NVIDIA control panel a max frame rate slightly below the refresh rate of the monitor, and that keeps everything nice and smooth. With G-Sync, if you ever actually get to the cap, the actual monitor's maximum refresh rate, sometimes that can introduce a little bit of lag. So I tend to set it just slightly below that. You can also set the maximum frame rate in game, but I think it only goes to like 120. So I tend to leave this at max and set it in the NVIDIA control panel instead. Audio, there's been some discussion lately. You almost always want to do OpenAL soft. That's the 3D sound API that works when your CPU does the processing, kind of the raw processing. It's called software processing, even though it's your CPU is hardware. But what they mean by that is that there's no dedicated dedicated chips that are especially designed for that. So anyways, so that's why it's called OpenAL soft, as opposed to like an old XFi hardware decoder that would accelerate it via hardware acceleration of OpenAL. Okay, we are far afield again, but as you saw, you're already set back up. And now that we go out, we should see a fully fleshed out documents, the Lord of the Rings Online. Now we have a key map folder file that holds all your key mappings, and a fully populated user preferences. So again, have any trouble? Especially if you're bringing over your documents folder from a different computer, nuke your user preferences and start over and just make those graphical settings when you log in, and you'll be back and hopefully golden. I think that probably covers what we need to cover. Let's see if we can look at power plans in Windows. This is going to the old school choose a power plan, but I wonder if these are related to those, because here's power saver. So let's graphics settings. I'm not really here to theorize, I suppose. I'm supposed to be guiding instead of bringing up more questions. But I am curious, the way this is phrased, power saving, use GPU Intel. High performance, well, this is high performance, and this is power saver. So I do wonder if I choose this, if all of a sudden it would start trying to use my Intel. I'll tell you, this is one of the reasons why I just keep the Intel one disabled. By default, my BIOS does that. I had to actually go in and change at the BIOS level my multi-GPU settings so that the Intel one actually shows up. Let's see. I think that might cover everything we wanted to cover today. I mean, really, it's just about the GPU. Some people are having trouble patching the game. Sometimes all of a sudden they just can't patch. I guess we could also go over we're seeing a lot of people who just suddenly lose the ability to write to their UserPreferences.ini, like it doesn't remember any settings. When that happens, almost certainly what is happening is that you've lost the ability to write to your documents folder, or at least the Lord of the Rings Online folder in your documents folder. One way you could check, like I'm going to click start, I'm going to choose command here, and I'm going to write who am I, and it's going to tell me I'm on the machine Eru and my username is Hurin. Alright, so that's just how you can look up your username rather than how your computer considers your account name to be. And you can right click this and choose properties and say security, and note here Hurin has full control. That's how it should be. If you don't have full control of your own documents folder, then something has gone wrong. If you ever needed to add yourself, you would come in here and you would say add Hurin. Of course, if you're not an administrator on your machine, you may not be able to do this. So we're getting far afield. If there's interest in this, I could always make another folder on this. But you need to add yourself and then give full control. There's another way, and I'm not sure if I want to show this, but you want to know if you're an administrator, right? So you go under users and groups, double click administrators, and see if this account is listed as an administrator in there. So if you're not, then you're probably not going to be able to make the changes you need to make to your permissions. Something's gone wrong. I used to see this kind of happen sometimes when people just move their stuff over to a new computer, or they upgrade their version of Windows on what they call an in-place upgrade. So anyways, we're seeing trouble with permissions. That's kind of a primer on how to start looking into that. A lot of people will just say, and this is valid, just right click the Lord of the Rings Online and say run as administrator. Show more options. Hey, what's going on here? Come on, there we go. Run as administrator. And that is going to kind of give the program itself the ability to override issues, but you shouldn't have to do that. If you're having to do that, there's something already going wrong. So, in a nutshell, if you've got all those prerequisites installed from the other video and the guide, if you've got DirectX, you've got Windows installed cleanly, you've got your drivers installed for your devices, and that's a whole other topic. You've got DirectX runtimes installed and the Visual C++ runtimes installed from the guide. You've got everything LotRO needs to run. If it doesn't run, something's gotten gummed up somewhere. And, you've just got to ask yourself, where does my computer differ from Ted's or Linda's, right? We've all followed the guide. So what's different about mine? What have I done to my computer in the last year or two? Like, did I just drag the LotRO folder over from another computer, or my documents folder over from another computer into a different account? I mean, that actually should still work, but you just never know what people have done with their computers. I realize I'm editorializing now, just kind of going off, but it's so frustrating. Being an IT person for 30 years now, you do feel like everyone who posts on the forums or wherever with a problem, you feel like if I could just fly out and get my hands on their computer, and even in a worst case scenario, it can be made to work 99.9% of the time by just wiping it, installing Windows cleanly, installing the prerequisites, installing the application, and it will work. Because you're going to wipe out whatever weird, kludgy, a crufty thing is freaking it out. A clean, pristine computer works best, right? So get it back to clean and pristine, and it's going to work. The last thing I should mention, and sorry for the rambling in between, sometimes people just seem to suddenly lose the ability to patch, and they try uninstalling the game and reinstalling it. One of the things I'd recommend is trying a VPN. I don't normally recommend VPNs. I don't think you need to be using them on a day-to-day basis, but it almost seems like people are having the data, for lack of a better term, the stream of data from SSG is being, I don't want to say tampered with, because that sounds like somebody's doing it on purpose, but it just sounds like either the router on someone's end, is just having trouble with it, or rejecting it. Maybe there are routers that, Asus routers will run Trend Micro antivirus. Maybe that's triggering silently because it has no way of alerting you if you don't configure notifications on it, and most people don't. Their ISP might be misrouting something. I could tell you stories for over the last several years of helping ISPs realize that they are misrouting traffic, and things would only partially work. It was mostly dead, or partially dead. Anyways, so by using a VPN, go and get NordVPN. I'm not picking favorites. I'm just picking ones. Private Internet Access, I believe, is another one. I don't know if TunnelBear is still around, but pretty much any VPN service. Just get a free trial or something inexpensive. Try that, because that is going to create what they call a tunnel from your computer through the router and every hop between you and that VPN's endpoint. And for lack of a better term, you're going to be hiding the nature of the traffic. So whatever has been triggering on it, or getting angry with it and blocking it, or whatever, mangling it, you might be able to bypass it with a VPN. And I'm not saying that's your solution, but if that works, then there is something wrong along the route for your natural internet route to the SSG servers. So either your router or some hop along the way is mangling that traffic. If you turn on the VPN and you're now taking a different route that is opaque to your router and those routes, you've tunneled it and encrypted it, and then it pops out on the at the VPN's provider's end and then goes to SSG. And it works. I hopefully that's clear why that would be indicative. So that's my test I would recommend for people who just suddenly can't patch the game. I mean, go ahead and uninstall a game, reinstall it. But once you're one of those people about to post on the forums, I've tried everything and all of a sudden I can't patch the game, that would be what I would try. I would try a VPN, or I would you know, if your neighbor has a different ISP, bring your computer over to your neighbor's house for a minute. Try it over there, especially if it's a laptop. What could it hurt, right? If you have a cell phone that can do a hotspot and you're playing from a laptop, join your cell phone's Wi-Fi hotspot and try it on that ISP. Basically, you want to change your ISP. If you can't change your ISP, you can pretty much change your ISP by using a VPN. Kind of virtually change your ISP. Okay, I've rambled on way too long. I guess we will call this the more advanced troubleshooting video for LotRO, brought to you by Hurin. I want to give a quick shout out on the forums to John Hammer. Is it John M. Hammer? That guy, as they used to say, is doing yeoman's work. Yeah, especially with Mac stuff. And he's all over these forums now, helping people. He really seems to know what he's talking about. Over the years, that's not always been the case when others have come in to try to help. So, I mean, it's such a breath of fresh air to have somebody start trying to help with technical stuff and doesn't just throw rumors and innuendo and biases against tech companies and, you know, things like that. So, John, if you're watching this, thank you. You are I'm kind of not as involved on the forums as I used to be. It's nice to be back on them, but yeah, well, just thank you very much. All right, and with that, I think we will wrap this up. Thanks for joining us. I don't know if anyone cares. They are pulling me back into this game. Never thought it would happen, but I'm actually considering doing a nightly stream of just starting a new account. I might put up a poll for all 4 of my viewers to see if I watched a little bit of my own stream, and me reading the text of the quests and trying to do accents and stuff. It was so bad. No one likes to hear their own voice, so maybe that's part of it. But I think I want to be able to read the quests. I want to try to get into the story again, but I feel like I'm going to be hurrying if I know people are watching, and therefore if I read it out loud, at least I'm providing quote-unquote content, instead of just sitting there silently reading while everyone like waits for me to read and think, oh my god, this guy reads so slow. So anyways, that's something I'm going to have to figure out. But yeah, I might be streaming here more and more often. We'll see how that goes. Okay. Thank you all for viewing. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, I'm immensely grateful. And enjoy your time in Middle-earth.